Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tammy's Table. I am so excited to come to you every week with ways for you to grow. And we mix that growth in with good conversation, good authentic conversation, conversations around food, and the ideas for all of us to leave here better than when you came. So thank you for joining us today. I first of all want to encourage you, if you're listening live on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you put your comments in the chat because we can see them and we can respond to them. Show is definitely meant to be interactive. And today I'm excited. This is our second show, and I'm going to shout out Sharon, my co-host.
Hello,
Sharon Weber.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, so Sharon and I started an organization to support families with special needs. And once a month, we do a show that is entirely focused around those families because honestly, you'll hear from our guest today. It's a whole different lifestyle when you're managing a child with special needs. Like everything is different. Would you agree, Sharon? It's not like normal.
No, I was just thinking this weekend, it's not like normal. At all.
And by the way, normal in quotes, like there's nothing quote unquote normal about it.
Right.
So Sharon, excited that you're here. Happy also to welcome our guest. So let me tell you about our guest. Now, this is going to sound really crazy coming from me because I have known her for the last like 23 years, maybe 24 years. But just as a mom, because our kids grew up together and I ended up having a kid with special needs, and Alma was one of the first people that reached out when she heard what was going on and just gave me tremendous advice. So Alma is the founder of Take Back the Kitchen, which is absolutely extraordinary in every sense. She shares... by the way, she's an author, but she shares amazing tips around all things cooking, things that would have never crossed your mind. So Alma has appeared on the Today Show, CBS. She's been in the New York Times. She's done a TED Talk, which was awesome. And I'm always amazed at how Alma ties like our personality and our spirit into the kitchen. And I should also mention that she had a show on the Food Network. So Alma, welcome to Tammy's Table.
Thank you so much. But I have to tell you, I do not have a show on the Food Network, but I'd love to.
Oh, I thought at some point we were chatting about like okay, anyway. Well, you know what? I just spoke it into the universe. It's going to happen.
Right.
That's what you want.
That's right.
So
there wasn't a casting for Chopped, and they did want me on, but it didn't come to fruition. So, but anyway. Back to you. Thank you for that.
Their loss. Their loss. So I thought we could start by just talking generally about what life feels like. Alma, I don't even know if you know, like you really helped me when I ended up having a kid with special needs. Like you gave me like really good casual advice in passing when I would see you in town. And the way I met Sharon, by the way, for those who don't know, Sharon was my son's family coordinator. So she came to all of those meetings at the house where we talked about the next steps for education and health and our life overall.
Wow.
So I thought maybe we could you guys have been instrumental in my life. Can you each speak? We'll start with Alma. Can you speak about, I don't know, why life is so different?
Yeah, it's a very different, I call it an alternative lifestyle, having a child with a disability, because it really is. And there's there are a lot of challenges, but there are a lot of amazing silver linings that come out of it, where you get to meet people that you might not have ever met before, or you've gotten to on a much deeper level with people than the typical superficial level we often have with people in our town, in our community, because you kind of cut right through the BS because we don't have time for nonsense. So you really just get to meet people, in a very deep way. So I want to start off with that before I get to the negative stuff. But
let's not. I don't even know what to say because it feels like sometimes there's just way more negative than there is anything else.
Yes, and we
It's
have to remind
dramatic.
ourselves that, I wouldn't be on this podcast talking to the two of you lovely ladies if it weren't for Lincoln, probably my son.
Yeah.
So my son, just for a little background, has a rare syndrome called Prader-Willi syndrome. And the main feature of this syndrome, ironically, because I deal with food so much, is that he has people with Prader-Willi syndrome, the primary feature of it is that people who have this do not ever feel full, and they are always starving. So imagine someone who is addicted to drugs and there are drugs sitting in front of them at all times. They're not going to be able to stop themselves. And he can't help it. People who have this syndrome, it's basically their brain saying, I'm starving and I will do anything to get food. So it's a very, very challenging alternative lifestyle. Our kitchen is locked. We have to hide our credit cards and our computers and our, laptops and everything that would allow him access to get food. So he has left the house. He has checked our car doors to see if there's food in there. He had to make sure to see if the car is open. He will take credit cards and figure out how to order DoorDash. And it may sound like, wow, that's kind of crazy, but it's not just bizarre. It's also incredibly dangerous because people who have this can literally die. Not to be too graphic, but I'm just going to lay it all out there so people know what we parents deal with in these situations. But he could literally have his stomach lining rupture from eating so much in one sitting, and he wouldn't. Yeah, because he doesn't ever feel full. So it's a very challenging life. I have 3 other children who have to be on guard at all times to make sure that they don't leave food around for him to eat. And it's taken its toll on our marriage, on our children. It's a very, very hard way to live. In addition to behavioral issues with provocative behaviors at school that have gotten us into a lot of trouble, and that's just the taste. That's
the taste. We'll stick with the imagery of the show. It's a taste.
Yes, it's a taste.
Alma, so I love your son because he was my son Trey's first friend.
Oh,
so I think there's something. I gotta say, like, there's something profoundly loving about the fact that our 2 special needs kids found each other in school and had an immediate connection, and we already had a connection. I thought that was like really deep. Yeah. But I want to do, before we get into more about Lincoln, Sharon, why don't you share a bit about Chris so that we could level set for the audience so people know like what we're dealing with.
Okay, so just a little bit about Chris. He is diagnosed with autism, and he has always had OCD, but it increased since his teenage years. So between the autism, ADHD, right, and OCD, with all of those combined, it mixes up to be some really challenging behaviors sometimes, even up to this weekend. I mean, although I wasn't feeling totally 100%, things like, just as simple as going out to dinner. It was my brother's birthday this weekend. And, Chris was a little bit more rambunctious than he usually is. And I think I know why, but in any case, he was. So I didn't feel it would be successful for him to actually go out and to dinner and sit at a restaurant, although he can do that. So I had to say no. And then they were like, okay, well, then afterwards, come to the house, chill for a little while. And, I wanted to go, but I had to say no still because of,
The life.
just the life, right? And, sometimes it's yes, we can make it through. And I think that, like, for a couple of hours, he could be successful. But there are other days, like yesterday, where, he just had his moments, and there was nobody else. Being a single mom now, there was nobody else to there was no other teammate there to pick up, right? So
Yeah.
when you have somebody to, like, tag, you're it, here you go, then it makes life just a little bit easier. But as Alma stated, I mean, it takes a toll on your marriage sometimes, and that was one of many factors um, uh, that resulted in divorce.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
so I mean, it's things
li-
like that.
life is life is just different.
Yeah.
Um so I real quick, I know you guys both know like Trey, but Trey has ADHD. Yeah, I guess OCD, which nobody even talks about because his other issues are so like prevalent. Like no one's really talked about that.
Hmm.
But Trey, 1 minute is the cutest kid you'll ever see in your life, and depending on what happens, he becomes the Incredible Hulk right out of the Marvel comics. Like he literally goes from being completely fine to, destroying property, and he put his hand through a glass window once.
Mm.
Um, he's on oxygen. Annie eats through a G tube that goes into his stomach. So, in addition to his um, emotional, um, whatever, I don't even know what the word is.
Hmm.
He has physical stuff, which is real. So that's a tough combo.
Yes, we
Um,
have that
Yes.
too. I just didn't. I didn't add that layer on, but I hear you, and that can make it extra
it's
challenging
extra. Yeah,
Hmm.
and
if he didn't
isolating.
have some of that physical stuff, maybe it could have been more manageable. But
Yeah.
what I want to go, this is what I want to talk about is chaos
Hmm.
and how we tame the chaos. Alma, you gave me some really great advice early on. I don't know if you probably don't remember because
I
we've had a
don't.
million conversations, but
I don't. I want to
you
hear it.
said to me, "How are you doing?" Like we were standing outside for pickup at Nishuane,
Okay.
and you said, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I just feel like I can't get my feet under me. I feel completely chaotic."
Hmm.
And you said to me, "The first thing you need to do is get organized. Like you
Oh,
should be totally focused on getting organized." So, by the way, I forgot to mention, I also have three other kids. So Trey's a twin, and then I have two older kids. I have two older kids. So yeah, when you said to me you need to get organized, it was all about taming the chaos. And I got very serious about doing that. And Sharon, I don't know if you feel the same way. Sometimes it's the chaos that is actually bringing us down.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so like taming the chaos. So I love what we're going to talk about today is how a menu could potentially like tame. I think 50% of the chaos is like, and you got to feed other people. Not
yep.
only are you doing this, you got to
Hmm.
like, you have a whole nother family.
Yep. It's true.
So yeah, so Alma, we're gonna like take a quick break, but when we come back, I really want to talk about that concept because I think people undervalue the importance of prep.
Yep. Yep.
Like, by the way, not just for meals, but for like doctor's appointments, for everything. Like, there's
Yep.
something about prep.
Yep. You're right.
So let's take a quick break, and then we're gonna kick off with that when we come back.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture, that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
There.
Old school, old school.
Old school. I went there. I did go there. Alma, I'm giving you the mic. Talk about chaos, and how you've tamed it and how we could all tame it just through the concept of a menu, having a plan.
All right. Well, I always tell people in all of my workshops and all of my private sessions with Take Back the Kitchen that the only thing I have ever done as a parent that has actually worked is creating a menu.
That's depressing.
I know.
That is amazing.
I gotta tell you, it changed my life because I had 4 kids and a husband, and we had custody of our niece for many years as well. So that's 5 kids. And I was cooking for everyone. And my 4 kids all wanted something different. And I'm very proficient in the kitchen and efficient. And I could have whipped up anything that they all wanted if they wanted something different. But one day I stepped back and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is absolutely a disservice to them, thinking that they can get whatever they want whenever they want it. And there were items that I knew that everybody liked. And then they would say, oh, I don't like that. So what I did was I got the family together. I'm going to give you my nuts and bolts, like quickly in a nutshell, what I have done that has worked all of these years. And I'm talking like I had this menu probably for 15 years before my older kids went to college, and we got into a different kind of lifestyle. But this is what I teach. You have a meeting with your family, you figure out, you have an agenda of what everybody likes to eat, and then you create a menu a different day. And I'm not talking about a menu that changes every single week. I'm talking about one menu, 1 week's worth of meals that you repeat over and over and over again with tiny tweaks to it. Okay. So in my family, we sat down, we had a fun thing where we said, we're going to have a family restaurant. I had the kids name it. My daughter, Isla, who is friends with TAMI'S oldest, or second oldest, created they called it the Rainbow Dragon Cafe. Isla, my little artist, drew a menu, drew a picture of a dragon and a rainbow. And so we got everybody into it that way. We said, we're going to have a family restaurant. I had my little agenda knowing what everybody liked to eat, but I asked them, I said, what does everybody like to eat? Does everybody like eggs? Does everybody like chicken nuggets? Does everybody like macaroni and cheese? Does everybody like pizza? So what we did was, those might not sound healthy to you, but what we did was we started, I wasn't going to create, build Rome in a day. I was going to start off with all of the things that my kids liked. Okay. Then over time, I slowly changed those items. I morphed them into much healthier versions of those original items. So for example, we decided that Monday night, because everybody liked eggs, Monday night was going to be breakfast for dinner night, where we would have eggs, whole wheat toast, and broccoli, because that was the only vegetable everybody liked. Not Tuesday. Yep. Tuesday, we had quesadilla night, where at that point, everybody only liked white flour tortillas and cheddar cheese. Wednesday night was macaroni and cheese night. I made Annie's macaroni and cheese from a box. Thursday night was chicken nuggets. I started off with the healthier Trader Joe's chicken nuggets. And Friday night, we did make your own pizza. Okay. That might sound like, well, that's not healthy. That's, but number one, it allowed me to buy the exact same ingredients every single time I went to the store, because I knew that those 5 nights and the weekends we did leftovers and we went out. So we didn't count the weekends in ours. But the way that we did this was because we had those same things, and we always needed eggs for Monday, we always needed cheese and white flour tortillas, we always needed whole wheat bread, we always needed broccoli, we always needed those chicken nuggets. We would buy all of those items. I would have a master list for going to the store. So you know how when you go to the store, you're like, you get there and you're like, what am I going to get? I don't even know what I'm making this week. I don't know what I'm doing. You end up buying a bunch of food that ends up being like snack foods, and you don't even have like real food to eat for dinner. And
or food that goes bad, which is what I buy a bunch of food and then I end up not
exactly. So this not only saves time, knowing what you're going to get, it saves money because you're not doing what you just said, buying food and then it goes bad. You're also not wasting food and feeling like, oh my gosh, I bought all this food and there's so much waste, because you're actually using what you plan to do. So this is a very simple concept, especially if you have, younger children who want those, those seem to be the things that all kids like. Most kids will eat eggs. Most kids will eat, chicken nuggets or macaroni and cheese. So as time went on, and also, I don't know about your kids, but my kids were always like, what's for dinner? There's something that kids need to know what's coming next. It's for their feeling of safety and comfort, especially if you have a child with Prader-Willi syndrome who is constantly thinking about the next meal. And I would, be sitting there like, oh God, what am I going to make? I was able to write it on a chalkboard. We wrote the menu on the chalkboard so they knew what was happening, to the point where if for whatever reason I changed it up one day, why aren't we having macaroni and cheese? It's Wednesday night. It's mac and cheese night. Like, they were so into this menu that, and when kids are a part of the making of some project, they are going to be much more inclined to be a part of it and to follow through with it themselves, because they helped in creating it. So it took so much stress off of me to know what was coming for dinner, what I was going to shop for, that I wasn't wasting food, and that I wasn't spending money on things that were going to, that we weren't going to end up using. So getting to the healthy piece of this, the macaroni and cheese. Let's start off with the eggs. So the eggs.
Wait, hold on. Let me interrupt you for 1 sec, Alma. I want to dissect this for the people that are listening.
Okay.
So that's already brilliant. I think maybe I pulled that from you because I'm a Sagittarian, so having the same menu every week is impossible. But
we're going to go from there. Don't worry, I'm not done yet.
No. So talk to me about, like, what was the immediate impact of the menu on your family from an emotional standpoint?
They loved it.
Very specific, like, bullets.
They loved it because they felt safe. They knew what was coming next. It might be hard for us to understand, but even adults want to know what's coming next.
Right.
And for kids, it's so important to have structure. And if we're the authority figure and we say, I don't know what we're doing, I know it sounds a little corny, but the kids want to know what that the parents are all knowing, and that we have a plan and we're here to keep them safe and have a structure. Kids need structure. So once this was started, the kids sort of like, they didn't have to ask, like, because it's not just what's for dinner, Mom. It's, is there going to be food? Is there going to be a meal? It also allowed us all to sit around, the kitchen island. It fosters family togetherness because we're all eating the same thing. It's so many levels to why this makes life less stressful.
Yeah, that's amazing. So go ahead. I'm going to let you get to the healthy part.
Well, the healthy piece of this is that I had a plan in mind that, of course, I did not share with them at the get-go, but there are a few things that we wanted to do. I did not want to have, macaroni and cheese for dinner. So what I did for my husband and myself was I would make pasta for us with vegetables in it, so that we were all having pasta, but the kids were able to see that, they were getting familiar with expanding their palate. They would see us eating vegetables in our pasta. They would see us eating like tomato sauce or, meat in our pasta. Slowly but surely, the kids wanted to venture into what we were eating. So it's a way to model healthier eating. So, for example, breakfast for dinner night, I didn't want hard-boiled eggs for dinner. I wanted to make an omelet with vegetables and Manchego cheese in it and a multi-grain bread. They would watch this, and then one day, can I have that in my eggs? Can I? Because kids just want to be like their parents, And eventually,
Unfortunately.
exactly.
I know.
Of course, they want to be like us.
Depends which parent we're talking about.
Exactly. So, with the chicken nuggets, I started with the Trader Joe's breaded chicken nuggets. Yes, they were breaded with whole wheat flour, but eventually I started taking their chicken nuggets and I would bread my own chicken nugget. I would make my own chicken nuggets, and yes, I would deep fry them. But then I started baking them with an olive oil spray on a rack in the oven so that I wasn't using all that oil, but they were still crispy.
Mhm.
And then they started moving into not just chicken nuggets for dinner or breaded chicken cutlets. It turned into other chicken dishes. So this is where we come into, not having the exact same thing every week. So the breakfast for dinner night turned into different kinds of breakfasts for dinner. The quesadilla night turned into different kinds of Mexican food that had rice and beans and vegetables in there. So that, again, we were getting healthier and healthier, but we were still slowly taking that theme of the different nights of the different foods and making them healthier and more elaborate and more interesting and healthier. So I'm telling you, this was the best thing I ever did as a parent. And they bought it. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. It allowed for us to all eat the same thing. So I did not have to become a short order cook. They knew what was coming. And Pete, let me just talk for a second about make your own pizza night, because not only did make your own pizza night allow them to start eating green herbs because they wanted to put basil on their pizza like in a pizzeria, but they thought it was so cool that when other kids were leaving the house Friday night, when they got to middle school and hanging out with their friends, my kids wanted to invite their friends to our house because we were the cool family who made pizza for dinner with dough. And it became a social thing where the kids, we got to keep an eye on the kids. They brought their friends over to our house, and it made me feel really good that they wanted people to come over, even though there was some craziness with our child who had some issues. It was something that they felt was unique to their family and special. And I mean, there are so many pieces to this that
I think that's so. I just think it's so amazing. And yes, my son Shane was one of the people at your house doing make your own pizza.
Did he ever come? I don't remember.
He came.
I think there are so many different takeaways from here, from what you said, Alma, which is like the organization piece, the being prepared for what's about to happen.
Yes.
To helping them feel safe, to having them be part of the process.
Yes.
And to have something familiar with them, to be able to know, okay, like this day, like they said, okay, Wednesday, it's taco day. Why aren't we having tacos? That sort of thing. So there's so many aha moments with what you just said that you can apply to a different aspects of your life.
Absolutely.
But to apply it to food, that's brilliant, and meals, that's brilliant.
And the shopping, it's just being able to say, I have everything I need in the fridge and in the pantry for the whole week. Not many people can say that.
Right.
Many people have to go to the store 5 times. Oh, I was going to make this and I don't have all the ingredients. This allows us to be prepared, and it feels really good. Like talking about chaos, which is how we started this conversation. We don't have control over so much in our lives, whether you have a child with a disability or not. We do not have control. We never know what's going to happen. Knowing that we have this covered is huge. It really allows for us to sit back and say, and feel good about ourselves that I took the time to plan this. And eventually it does become automatic. It's really like, it may sound like a lot to start. But after like the first couple of weeks, when I've taught this to people, they're like, yeah, I always have all these ingredients for the whole week in my house because I know that we have this menu. And the kids, by the way, are very proud of the menu. They would tell all their friends about we also had people coming over for Tuesday, quesadilla night, Mexican night, and they would invite their friends over when their friend liked that particular meal. And it was just like it was like a special family thing, that this is what our family does. This is what makes us different and special in a good way, when there were so many things that did not make us special in a good way. I have to admit.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I love the whole idea of preparedness. And I know Sharon and I, one of our goals is to help like tame the chaos. So Alma, real quick, we need to wrap, but what are you working on? Do you want to promote anything? Like, people, I know, are going to fall in love with you. So how can they get more Alma?
Very sweet. Well, I do have a podcast where my friend and partner, Iris Meller, and I have a podcast called Two Moms, No Fluff. And we talk about all things related to raising children with disabilities, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we also have a consulting business that we started where we're helping companies become more supportive and inclusive to their employees who are parents of children with disabilities in their company. So to create a better culture. Yes, so
I love everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes,
We're very invested in the disability community to make lives better for everyone involved, because it can be a very challenging life. And we want to share what we've learned on our own journeys, and including cooking. I actually have a whole episode about cooking and the menu on our podcast. So tune into that. And and thank you to the two of you for all the great work you're doing. It's very much needed. And my hat is off to you both.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
We're in the Mutual Admiration Society. Like, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely.
Sharon, thanks for jumping in with your great comments. And we will see or hear everybody back at Tammy's table next Monday at lunch, 12 o'clock Eastern time. Have an awesome week.
Thank you.
Okay.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.